Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Cyber Potato, where we continue our work with React and Node and TypeScript to build the game list app. And we left off with the list being pretty much done and the form also kind of styled. What we didn't do yet actually is to handle for submission, right? So what I'd like to do in this episode is to finish the series by implementing the post, patch, and delete method for our form. And there will be one really interesting part about how browsers work and how they limit what you can do when it comes to client and server communication, but we'll get to that in a second. So let's start with the, let's see, with updating our game, right? So if we take a look at the controller file, can we? No, not really. Let me just do something like this. Here we'll have our backend code too. And here in our control file, see there is a update game, right? And it matches this route with a patch method. So let's get it done here. This is going to be update game method. It's going to be asynchronous. It will take a game to update. It's going to be of type game. And as far as I remember, the API also returns an updated game to us. So that's cool. To perform that call, we have to have a patch method in our API. You can do this rather easily by simply copying that and changing into patch. So now we can call that here. And the URL is the same as above. And we're gonna take game ID from here. And there's in our API, there's a response type and data type, and they both are the response type is actually accept response of a game, and the data type is of game. So that's fine. This shouldn't be any, but let's check. Response is of type game. I don't really feel like this is correct, but we'll see. We can adjust this a little bit later, and we'll export update game method. I will try to use it in our details page. So here, to do that, we'll make our submission asynchronous. We'll prevent default, that's good. Wait, update game with a game. We can store the response here for now and see what we get here. Response is not a word. Response is the one we're looking for. The game here, our compiler is complaining because the type can be game or null. In case of being null, well, we're not really interested in doing anything. What we could do is throw some kind of error or maybe do a form validation, but it's not really important right now. that should compile. Yeah. So what we'll do, we'll try to update the game in the backend right now with our form. So let's see. Let's open developer tools. Let's bump it up so that you can see. Let's try to change the price to something higher because Hunt is a really good game. And we have a network error. Let's see. Access to XML HTTP requests to our server from our app was blocked. The preflight request doesn't pass access control check. No access control allowed origin header is present on the request resource. So let's see what actually is our application trying to do. Here is to perform some kind of call, and you can't really see it very well in Chrome. So maybe I will fire up Firefox to help us a little bit. Let's go to the URL. Let's open developer tools. Sorry for it being in Polish. It might be problematic, but it will help us just a little bit. Let's submit. Oh, okay. Now we have something more. Let me bump it up. Okay, so here we're having a little bit more information about what our app is trying to do. If we go to network, you can see that first it's trying to perform options requests. We didn't see that yet. And then it's trying to do the patch. And why is that, one might ask? Because if I reload the page, I see a get method, but there's no option request preceding it. So what is going on? You see, this is basically how the browser and the API works. The get method is, we're performing it to read some kind of information. And while reading the information, you may not be able to do that, but it's not invasive. It doesn't change the data on your server. When performing get, we're not writing to a file on server or writing to a database or changing the data on the server. But that's different with the patch, post, and delete. When you're trying to perform any of these requests, what happens first is the option request. And as it states on MDN, the HTTP options method requests permitted communications options for a given URL or server, right? So what browser is trying to do is to actually check whether the client is able to perform a request that will somehow be invasive and manipulate the data on the server, because it may be problematic. The client might intentionally or unintentionally overwrite or delete some kind of important data. So we have to explicitly say that we allow that for given URL and request. So there will be a few problems here, and let's try to handle them one by one. Okay, so I will open my server code, and first things first, I will say this is well, rather simplistic approach for that issue, but it's enough for our case. if request method is options, options or options. Okay, so that's good. What we will do is we will set, sorry, this should be out on the response. We'll set header to 20 and we'll set the default headers, right? And we will just end with that. Why don't you like right head? Sorry. Okay. So we now allow the options request to be performed against our server, right? Let's see what happens now. Okay, still something is wrong. Let us check what. There's no access control allowed methods. Okay, so this is another header that you have to specify for options. What kind of methods does the client are available for the client to perform? Is it only delete, maybe only patch, maybe all? So here I will create additional function get options headers. This will return an object, and we need access control allow methods. Okay, and we'll set it to asterisk, meaning go for it. Anything you want, you got it. I don't know who sung that song. And we have to add it to options. So we'll spread that and add get options headers. Is this the end of our struggle? Let's see. It doesn't seem so. No. There's another problem with a course, and I would like to get some more information about that. Can get it here. Unexpected end of JSON input. Okay, that's something else. This looks good. This looks good. And there's really no put. JSON parse. Maybe we format our data wrong somewhere. Let's see. This is okay. As you can see, there's access control allow origin set and access control allow method set. Go back to Chrome, see where we can find anything more about that issue. Oh, something has been written incorrectly, it seems. So let's check our file here. Against this JSON. Looking good to me. So what is the problem? Can't read property data of undefined TSX. So Wasn't expecting that. Here. Okay, so we cannot read the body for any reason. Okay. And this is due to the fact we sense something wrong in here. So let's find all references. Let's check. Maybe let's debug what is that we're currently sending there. I guess let's just go back to the lists. Oh, this is going to be wrong again. Can we try this? Excuse me, can we try this again? Okay, let's see. Okay, it does look correct. And what we're sending is a game. It has ID, name, and a price. Looks good to me. But then there's nothing in the network. I don't know why. So unexpected end of JSON input. In here. Okay, this has been modified. This looks good. And here we have well, nothing. Not here, but here. I'm starting to panic right now. But let's see. Pass. Oh, we don't pass the data at all. I'm so stupid. That was so obvious. Yes, so to pass data. Of course. Oh, of course. Okay, try that again. I know. Do I have to restart? I hope now we're back. Let's see. Okay, I'm just trying to change the price here. And there's still an error, but this time is different one. As you can see, this is again, request header field content type is not allowed by access control allow headers in pre-flight response. So there's another thing missing. Let's copy that. Let's go to API, and here what we need is also an asterisk just to be able to access the add the headers to the request, the response actually. So let's try that again. Okay, and let's try now. Same stuff. And we have our answer. So there's a data status, and it probably was changed. Let's reload. Yeah, it was. So in your backend, to the options request, we have to add access control allow methods and access control allow headers. Now, how long we've been going for? 20 minutes. Good enough. One thing that we have to adjust anyway, we don't need server anymore, so we won't bother with that. As you can see in here, the response actually has a data inside of it. So there's probably something wrong with the type we're getting here. So let's take a look. This should be Axios response of the response type. Hello, help me out here. Axios response. So this should be correct generic type. We're getting Axios response of the response type. So with that, here I should be able to deconstruct our response and access the part that is actually interesting to us. And this is going to be data. And this should also return the data. Let's see. And here we should also pass a game. And this should return promise of a game. So that's not good. Why is it working here? Patch TR. So maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this is correct then. It's still, let's see. This has a type of promise of data type. Nah, not really. So this should be like this, response type, or maybe even Axios response of the response type. Then this looks good now. Okay, then this has a type of, come on, void. We should return that. Now this has access response of a game. Cool, this is correct now. Okay. Whew. It's so hot right now in Poland, you can't even imagine. So first is data type, the second is response type. Now it's good. And you have the data. After we get the response, so this is being, I don't know, updated game, let's call it like that. You can just set game to the updated value. Updated game. And now it should work. Don't preserve the log. So if I change the price back to 55, I could get rid of the booger. And I don't know why it's not showing. No idea. But hey, it should work. Okay, let's get rid of the debugger. So that's the one case, right? Us being able to update the game. There's a second case when we like to create new game, right? So for example, that sells, or maybe let's just call it this is DC, that sells price 30. So here's the case. We need to distinguish somehow between when we're creating a game and when we are editing or updating an existing game, right? So let's see what we can do about that. There's a case where we have a game ID from the very start. Okay, so if this is missing, then we can distinguish by that. One thing that would be cool to change is that. So if we have game now, let's try displaying here. Well, let's see, if we have a game and we don't have a game ID, we can display game name or new game. It looks kind of stupid, but it will work in that way. If we start writing here, it will show proper name instead of nothing, right? But it gets a little bit complicated than that. So if we have a game, let's see, if we have a game, then just display game name. Otherwise, display new game. I believe that's correct and will be way simpler to understand than what we had before. Okay, and as soon as I start typing, this is cool. How about editing? Still works. You can see that quick flash between new game and loaded game, but we'll settle with that. Okay, so that should be easy. Let's see. If we have a game ID for the start, check whether to update or create new. If there is a game ID, I'm sure what we're doing is we're editing. Else, I'm sure we're creating. So let's call this new game. Let's create game method, create game with a game. And then set game to new game. Okay, we have to handle that missing, but that's gonna be easy. So our connection to API looks like this: create game, this asynchronous method. Again, every method you create when you're creating the API will be asynchronous. Promise of a game. And the data, it's gonna be API post. The URL, well, basically it's the same as here, right? Just the method is different. So I hope it will work. Let's see. Yeah. Need to specify this and this. Also, we need to fix that too, right? The order of our generic arguments. That should satisfy you. We'll export create game. Import that here. Thank you. Thank you. This is looking good. So let's go here. Let's see what's cool. Frost Punk. Basically, everything punk is good. The game is Frost Punk, and the price is, I believe, 99 on Epic Store right now. Yeah, good. Let's see. Submit. I don't know why this isn't logging the network. I will have to check that, but it's infuriating. But we can verify that by going here and opening. Is this the place? Oh, it seems like there's something here. But I believe that should be here. Game list JSON file. We have to close it, don't save, reopen because it was modified, and looks correct to me, so that's good. We can also verify this, of course, by going to our homepage. And there we go. Here it is, working like a charm. So moving on, there are two things basically that we left off for now. So let's handle that. One is, of course, the deletion. It's going to be easy. We will add another button here. Delete color variant. It can be, well, something else just for fun. Undefined is good. Let's see how that looks. Well, we need a little bit of spacing and we need a little bit of color for that. What is the possible value for a color? Secondary. Let's see. Red. Perfect. Well, pinkish red, but that's fine. We need to add a class here, or I could use that. So let's change it to spacing. Is it smart enough? No, it's not. Well, actually, spacing, that is correct, my friend. Okay, and we need to add this class name here. Whoops, no, that's not correct. Classes basic. Okay, good. Almost. Now it's good. Come on. Invalid character? I can't agree with you. Okay. So now for the delete, for destructive operations, we should also add some kind of confirmation, and you can do that rather easily with Material UI, but this is out of the scope of that tutorial. On delete, we'll create a handler here. Is this correct? Yes, this is correct. So on delete, we don't need to prevent default here because we're not submitting, right? So we don't have to call that method here, as you see. Basically, what we need to do is to delete that game and move the user back to home. So this is asynchronous. We'll pass game ID here, right? But only, well, basically, it's getting complicated as always, because the code is, the life is complicated. But this button should be disabled when there's no game ID, because you can only delete the existing game, right? So you have to check for game ID. That's one thing. If it isn't the existing game, then, well, you can't get rid of it. And we should check it's disabled when there's no game ID. Makes sense to me. Okay. So this should be now good. Let's get in here and create delete game. It's a synchronous method, as always, taking game ID as a string. And what it does, it will call API delete with a given URL games game ID. But I remember that we have written that function so that it returns the list without deleted item, so like an updated list, right? So this is gonna be not path, but delete with response type and data type, if we ever need one, with u that will take only URL. And we're adding the data type, well, basically to match the types provided here for every function, but it doesn't really matter in that scenario. So return await API access instance delete with data type and Axios response of response type, and just pass the URL. Looking good. This looks good. This doesn't look good because that should be game ID. Correct. Export. Import. And we'll use navigation. So the same like here. Import that. Command, cool. And after we delete, we will navigate home. That does look correct to me. So let's try it. We're deleting, and after that we should be redirected home. Bam, and the list gets updated. So this is gone. One thing we're missing is we have to connect the very same function here, right? So let's see. I click this. Well, here's the problem. If you click, this is the perfect example of event bubbling, and you should really know what is event bubbling, right? So what we see happening, I'm trying to click on a button and then I'm redirected. And this is because the browser actually is trying to help you a little bit and is trying to handle all of the events happening on a given element. So I know that this icon is a child of my table row, and I'm trying to click on delete icon. But then also my browser recognizes that I'm not only clicking on a button, but also on a whole row, because the icon is a child of given row, and it triggers the action for the row, which is the navigation to details. And we have to stop this right here, right now, you and me. So that's going to be actually rather easy. I have icon button here, and I will add onClick function. I have to create it like this as an arrow function inside of render, because I have to pass the game ID here. So that's fine. So let's try that. On delete is an asynchronous action that, well, actually it's a little bit complicated. This will have an event, and we actually have to pass both. Well, we could avoid it, but it's good. So there's gonna be an event, which is a React mouse event happening on a button, exactly HTML button element. It's fine. And there's a game ID, which is a string. Come on. This is, I don't know how this got here. This isn't correct. Definitely isn't correct. So here, to prevent from this event bubbling, you have to get your event and call stop propagation, like we did on with the prevent default. To prevent the reloading, if you like to stop the event bubbling to the top, you call stop propagation, and this now is not redirecting anymore, right? So once again, without stop propagation, the event is being bubbled up and I am redirected to another page, because this handler is getting called. With stop propagation, right now it's all correct. And now we need to get the list after delete from delete game ID. So we have to change that a little bit. Come on. Okay. We will get the data from here. And I know that should be, let's see, first is response type. So the response type is what? Is a game list. Two arguments. And can I give you, no, not here. Can I by default give you undefined type? That would be nice. Yeah, I can. So that's a little trick if you'd like to ignore the generic argument for any reason, basically. Okay, and we return data, and this should be game. And now I don't have to even specify explicitly that this returns the promise of an array of games, because the compiler is smart enough to interpret my code and decide the return type. And this is called damn it, I always forget that. Inferring. Yeah, it can be inferred. Thank you. Damn, I'm good. Okay. So with that done, let's see. We should naturally set games to the update one. So list after delete. And I guess we should check it. Okay, because I don't want to refresh my page. I like to have it automatically refreshed. The list should be refreshed after I delete that. And works like a charm. Oh my god. Okay, cool. There's one part missing though. Currently, you don't have any way in our UI to navigate easily to creation of new game, right? Just have to know the URL, and that's kind of sketchy if you ask me. So what we can do is go to Parallel UI and find Fab button, right? And this is a floating button, and I'd like to get this. We'll slap it here. Looking good. And add icon is coming from or maybe we can check the code. Add icon is coming from this place. So that should be okay. Just that. Looking good. So this is Fab, F-A-B, meaning floating action button. And it's really cool because it's floating over your, like it looks like it's floating towards your user, drawing the attention. But we need to style it a little bit, as you can see. If I can get position fixed and set it bottom 0 and left, maybe right 0. It's looking a little bit better. We just need some padding here and there. Let's say 32 pixels and 32 pixels. Way better now. Let's add that. So I just create a Fab class here. Position set to fixed. It was 32 pixels, and then right 32 pixels. Okay. We'll use that here. That should work. Okay. And the one thing we have to do here, on click, create this inline function because, well, I'm lazy. Navigate right to games new. Let's see that. Okay, I'm navigated. Oh, what game can we add? Let's try wasteland 2. Wasteland 3. And claim, let's submit. We did submit, and it's here. And as you can see, there's one thing missing. For our user, I would expect after adding the game, or basically updating the game, maybe we don't need that. This setting isn't really useful, since what I'd like to do is to get our user back to home page. And that should basically finish our app. Let's add a game, another game. It can be Cyberpunk. I'm down. Cyberpunk. Well, it's not so good in its current state. Submit, and it's here. And you can delete it, and it refreshes. Yeah, we're done. So basically, these are the basics of creating an API with a Node.js, nothing else, and then using it and connecting to it from React with TypeScript. And that basically ends that series. I'm thinking, what should we do next? Let me know. Comment, subscribe, like, share it. Give me your thoughts about what would you like to learn next. I'm thinking maybe we should dwell into something more complicated, like for example creating a real API with Nest.js, you know, the one with authentication, pagination, and so on, and then maybe deploying it somewhere and creating some kind of cool rich UI web app with it. Maybe we'll try to clone Steam, you know, clone like a little bit some functionalities, like maybe grouping games to some kind of collections. We have to think about it. Anyway, thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.